Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this 7th, Thursday, the 7th of October, 2021. Thank you for tuning in. And what we're going to talk about right now is the Economist magazine cover from 30 years ago. 30 years ago. We're going to analyze it a little bit, you know. On the cover of the Economist magazine, if you guys aren't familiar with it, the they had a picture that was very, very interesting, to say the least. It was a phoenix standing on burning currencies with a big golden a chain around his neck holding a big golden coin. And on that golden coin it said things. Uh, One of the things it said was the year 2018. It had a symbol, and at the top of the magazine it said, "Get ready for a world currency, a one world currency." Now, what about the year 2018 in this? How does that play in? And also, we're going to look at what is under his feet, the burning current, and the phoenix himself. We're going to talk about what the phoenix symbolizes in mythology. You know, the world, uh, for the last thousands of years, has had something that's called, that the archaeologists call the dying, resurrecting God man. It's very familiar in the religious cultures of the world. And there was something like 148 different versions of this around the world. This dying, resurrected God man. One of the more famous versions of this was a god called Mithra that was worshipped by the Romans, you know. And it's a long story, but the phoenix is another one of these gods who dies, and then he rises from the ashes again. And the ancient people used to worship a celebration that used to have to do with the sun. Uh, and the sun's rebirth every year. And oftentimes at these ancient sites and things, they would be able to observe through celestial phenomenon the turning of the sun, which happens at Christmas time, when the sun reaches its furthest point away from the earth, and then it changes direction and it actually returns. And they used to portray this as a death. In the fall, everybody'd see the leaves falling off the trees and the winter coming. And this was in fact, in our way we talk about life seasons like spring, summer, winter, and fall. In other words, when you're a child, that's the spring, and then later you move into summer, which is your young adulthood, and then later you move into fall, which is your middle aged, and then you turn into winter when you're really old, and then you die. And they used to observe these things in festivals in the ancient world. And so the phoenix was represented of the death, of the fall, when the sun's leaving and it's going away, and then all of a sudden the sun stops down the southern equator and it starts to turn back uh, again, in other words, it's resurrected and is reborn from the ashes. So that's what this phoenix represents. But there's a diadem on his head. If you look here and you see a diadem on his head. And that's the symbol of regalia or regal. That's the symbol of kingship. That's the symbol of authority. That's the symbol of like a crown. It says the same thing as a crown. And the ancient crowns of the ancient world, were made of gold for a reason. King used to wear a crown on his head. And if you can picture a crown in your mind, it has these points. Well, you ever seen a kid drawing a sun in school? They draw a round circle and then they draw these points, similar to the points on a crown. The crown's gold. Gold is the color of the sun, the golden sun. And so the kings of ancient lore, of ancient times, used to be sun gods. So that's what this is. That's a symbol of regalia on his head, the symbol of kingship of the world. You know, get ready for a world reserve currency. And this new world order, this symbolized here by this phoenix rising from the ashes, is the new world order rising from the old world order. And all of these currencies burning under his feet represent hyperinflation. It represents the currencies becoming valueless. And if you look carefully at these currencies, what do we see? We see every different currency of the earth, all becoming valueless simultaneously. So how could they have known about this 30 years ago or more? And what was their plan for 2018? And why didn't it happen? Why didn't we have hyperinflation in 2018? In fact, you know, the dollar's actually been getting stronger on the US dollar index. So we're not even having hyperinflation now. Perhaps something made them put off their plans for 4 years. I don't know. I'm just theorizing. But what does the gold coin around the phoenix neck symbolize? Some people have said it symbolizes Bitcoin. And in fact, you know, the symbol for Bitcoin is very, very similar to what the bird is wearing around its neck. Or perhaps it could be gold that is actually a gold coin symbolizing a gold coin. You know, because Bitcoin didn't exist back in when this article was written by the Economist magazine. Now, I'm going to tell you guys what. We're on the verge right now of this actually taking place. All of the world's currencies losing value very, very quickly. Because what happened was in 1971, you know, Nixon took us off the gold standard. He said this is a temporary measure. And why he had to say it was a temporary measure? Because it was unthinkable to have a currency that's backed by nothing at all. So he said this is a temporary measure to stop the speculators. Well, that was just an excuse. The speculators weren't really speculators. They weren't speculating in anything. They just wanted something real behind their money. And so the dollar was convertible into gold, so they wanted the gold. It's Gresham's law. So at any rate, they knew they really had to back, for the currency to maintain value of any sort at all, they knew they had to back it by oil. So they sent Kissinger over, and they worked a deal with the Saudis that you could only sell oil in dollars. So thereby everybody that wanted to trade oil first would have to buy dollars to use the dollars to trade the oil. And that gave the gold a loose peg to the price of oil. So it had a backing. Now what about all the other currencies? Well, they were backed by the dollar. And this is why under the phoenix's feet we see all the currencies of the world burning simultaneously. So now, I personally believe that perhaps they put this off for 4 years. Well, that would mean that it would happen in 2022. Because you take 2018, you add 4 years, you get 2022. So what is going to happen next year? What do we see happening right now? See, worldwide massive energy shortage. And it's not just in one form of energy, it's in all forms of energy right now. Energy dependence is what this world runs on. Specifically, we are an oil-based economy, and we have been. Now, at the same time, we have the Chinese who've been working for a long time to erode the connection to the dollar to oil connection to the dollar. We have Saudis making other alliances with other nations. And we, in fact, see the dollar not exclusively being traded in oil anymore, not exclusively being traded in the dollar. We got a lot of things happening very quickly, and we got the U.S. debt ceiling coming due. Now, they've just come in with a new thing that they're going to push it off until December. I think December 3rd. But they haven't solved any of the problems with the U.S. debt ceiling. The debt ceiling could act as a trigger. A trigger for what, you guys are asking? Well, the debt ceiling, if they can't get it resolved, and they're deadlocked on it right now. That's why they're kicking the can. They're deadlocked. So it's going to come due on December 3rd again. What if the debt ceiling doesn't go through? Well, we're going to get a crash in the markets immediately. We're going to get strange fluctuations in the bond market. And this could lead to the government having to change course. The governments, I should say. All of the governments having to change course and change direction very early in 2022. Possibly in January. Change direction in a direction that's going to lead us directly into hyperinflation in the year 2022. And so exactly what would happen is exactly what's portrayed on this Economist magazine cover, that the currencies would be burning, except instead of 2018 it would be 2022. And the coin around his neck might be both. It might be gold and silver and cryptocurrencies, which might explode in value because when you basically have a hyperinflation and you burn the fiat currencies, all that value that they represent doesn't cease to exist. The companies, the big companies out there, and the land and the properties and the people, that's all what the currency represented was their work, their labor, their fruitage, the corporations, the land, everything that has value was represented in the currencies. But if the currencies become valueless, what they represented doesn't cease to exist. It's still there. That wealth, that enormous wealth is still there. It hasn't changed at all. But it's not represented in the currency anymore, so it has to switch over and be represented in something else. It could be represented in cryptocurrencies, in which case, if you transferred all the value of everything in the world out of the fiat currencies and into cryptocurrencies, well, the cryptocurrency's value would go exceedingly high. It would be difficult to put any sort of a dollar term on it. But in the purchasing power of the fiat, of the cryptocurrencies. But if it transfers into gold and silver, it could do the same thing to gold and silver. And in fact, it's so much wealth that's represented here, we're talking about here, the wealth of the entire Western world, that these things, cryptocurrencies and gold and silver, all of them could go exceedingly high in price, beyond you guys' wildest dreams. And this could happen very rapidly, because once confidence is lost, I mean fully lost, in the fiat currencies, there's going to be a mad rush out of them. And that in turn accelerates the mad rush out of them. It's like one of these things, and the best way for me to explain it to you guys is, picture a gymnasium, and they're having a big party in there or something. There's like 1,000 people inside a high school gymnasium. And there's two little exit doors. And one exit door has gold written on it, and the other one has crypto written on it. Okay? If somebody in the gymnasium yells, and they see smoke, and the word fire is yelled, what's going to happen is everybody in that gymnasium, all those 1,000 people, are going to run for those two exit doors. And what they're going to do is they're going to create like an effect all they're pushing and shoving to get out those exit doors is going to create a pressure, a back pressure. Other people know about this, and we've been forecasting this. Not just me, but other channels and stuff have seen this coming for a long time. And I heard one commentator, I forget exactly who, but they said that when this happens, it's going to be like Niagara Falls trying to get through a garden hose. I can't remember who said that. It might have been Rob Kirby. It might be a quote from Rob Kirby, but one of them said that it's going to be like Niagara Falls trying to get through a garden hose. That's going to be the pressure that's going to be to get out of the fiat currencies and get into something that's going in the opposite direction. So that would mean basically priced in fiat that these things could become no price. You can't put a price on them, because if you got a guy out there and the fiat is losing like half of its value daily, and they say a cryptocurrency is doubling daily, if he comes up to you and says, I want to buy your cryptocurrency off of you for these fiat dollars, then you know it's going to be worth almost twice as much tomorrow as it is today, and you know what he's holding is going to be worth only half as much tomorrow as it is today. Are you going to trade with him? Same thing goes for gold and silver. You know? And so, what comes after? Now, if this really does happen in 2022 or even 2023, first off, what I want to tell you guys is this is inevitable. It has to happen. Math, because they've been running a global Ponzi scheme, the fiat currencies and cryptocurrencies are nothing more than a global Ponzi scheme. Math dictates that this actually has to happen, what I'm talking about. And maybe it won't happen in 2022. By gosh, sure does look like it. But maybe it won't. Maybe it'll happen in 2023, 2024. You know? But math indicates that this actually has to happen. And in fact, you guys can see the effects every time you go to the grocery store. Every time you go someplace to buy something, you can see this compounding effect of how prices are surging. You know, and it's actually a hard time keeping up in the world because prices, like, I heard that yesterday, the price of natural gas going into Europe went up by 40% in one day. Now, how do these companies and stuff have to use natural gas and have to figure that into their books, like pricing and stuff? You know, like what are we going to charge for whatever? They're going to have to reprice everything in their company on a daily basis. You know, and I mean, things are starting to turn topsy-turvy. So we're heading into next year very soon. And I think next year could be a year where monster-sized transitions happen in the whole world. In other words, the whole world changes in ways that you guys cannot imagine. And what I'm going to say to you guys is hang on to your cryptocurrencies, to your gold, to your silver, because when the real trouble comes, you're not going to care what you paid for them. You're not going to care about, I had to pay a premium on this ounce of silver. You're only going to care that you have the ounce of silver. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up, and we'll catch you guys in the very next episode. Bye-bye.